On this week's GTA 6 o'clock, the Trailer 2 analysis continues, more key characters identified, and a connection to Michael from GTA 5. It's all here on this week's GTA 6 o'clock. Hello and welcome to part 2 of this special report on GTA 6 o'clock, the world's most in-depth and best connected GTA 6 show. Last week, we covered the first half of Trailer 2, so we thought we'd better turn up and do the second half. I am James JJ Jarvis, and joining me in our Los Santos studio is Dan DD Dawkins. Hello, Dan.
Hello, good morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you might be.
Yes, so are we prepared to dive straight into Trailer 2? If you haven't watched part 1 of this analysis, jump back over and go and do that, because we are going to dive straight in. We're not going to recap anything. We're going straight in for about halfway through the trailer. There will be a mega episode coming out in a couple of days after this one drops, which combines part 1 and part 2. If you are so inclined and want to watch 3 to 4 hours of analysis and in one go, please go and do that. But just before we jump in to the second part of this analysis, we've got a little something up top.
Can you remember, James, what would have been significant about this day had we not received 70 plus screenshots and a new trailer and all this amazing stuff to analyse? It was, in fact, the pivotal moment we were looking forward to, and I'd forgotten about it. It is, in fact, the
on day of recording is Take-Two Investor Call Day.
It is. It is. So, unfortunately, this hasn't happened yet as we record this show. By the time you listen to this, it probably has. Well, it has happened, right? I'm sorry, this won't be the episode where we analyse it because it hasn't happened.
Is there any need to analyse it, though, would be the question. Because,
sure,
we've got the date, we've got a whole load of other stuff to talk about. There might be some stuff in there we can go over. We will, of course, listen to it and bring you any updates in the coming weeks. But there's so much to go over right now.
Oh, there is.
Cleverly, for Take-Two and Rockstar, they've hidden this financial call behind hundreds of screenshots.
And that's why I would double listen to the financial call, because they've got a smoke screen. What's behind it? Maybe nothing. But, we'll report on that when we come back next time.
All right, so let's jump in to Trailer 2. We are at scene 41. This is the scene. It is Jason and Lucia entering, I assume, the 919 nightclub in Vice City. This is the same nightclub that you can see being advertised in Trailer 1 when the plane flies across the screen and it's got the banner that says, "Why 69 when you can 919?" Very good bit of advertising there. Key points here is Lucia has the same dress on as she did on the boat, and as we have also seen in Trailer 1 and various other screenshots. So you can make the assumption that this is from the same night, or at least from the same mission sequence, I guess. And while we're talking about screenshots, there is one of Lucia where we get to see the back of the GTA 6 edition of the iFruit phone. Now, the iFruit phone does feature in a number of other screenshots and clips, then you can actually see the front of it. We will probably go into that whole thing in more detail in a later episode. One amazing thing, as we've talked about all the little details so far, is just the number of people in the background of this shot and how many different outfits and looks and styles we've got going on. Like, there's so much variety here in what I'm going to guess is, an in-game club sequence. So it's really great to see all of that different variety.
All I would note with this scene, and I guess all of these scenes with her wearing the dress, is there's a real sense of liberation, escape, her wanting to party. She seems really excited about all of this. In fact, almost like she's leading it and pulling Jason through. And it's interesting that Rockstar have given us so much of this day, from day to night, and what we talked about in the last episode was possibly beyond, when they're in the car and her hair is tied up. I wonder if that's just because either this is early in the game and actually it's not as significant as we think, or it's really significant and there's a reason they're showing us so much of it. And it actually ties quite neatly to the key song from Trailer 2, the Hot Together song, the sense of being at the same party, The first time you kiss me, you asked me to dance. All of this feels very neatly bound together.
Yeah, and as we said in last week's episode, what we're seeing here is quite a lot of the same sequence, whereas the trailer feels like it's showing us a lot, but actually we're seeing a very microscopic part of the game, we think here, not just here, but in the entire trailer. So the world is going to be massive, but what we're actually seeing is, as we said, maybe 2, 3, 4 different sequences throughout the game. And are they early? Are they late? To be discussed.
Yeah.
But in the next scene that we've got here is a continuation of that night. Jason and Lucia are dancing, same outfits. Lucia has her necklace on, which we covered in last week's show. So it's just a sense that they're out, they're having a good time.
Remarkable visuals. It's worth noting, like the quality and the multiplicity, there's a ridiculous word, of lighting effects. You've got like the neon swirl, you've got the spotlights, you've got all of that like reflecting off a bejeweled outfit she's wearing. Like technically it's outrageous. And possibly the most outrageous thing actually is the quality of the hair physics. She's got like lightly tousled hair, the way it sweeps and swirls. And this is talked about last week. We talked about Digital Foundry did an analysis and called this like the strand-based system of hair, which not probably there's a big debate on Digital Foundry about could Xbox Series S even handle the processing required to deliver the strand system. And they were saying actually they don't think it can. So they were saying that, the hair physics might be worse in the Series S version through necessity. All of that is to come, but just to say that this scene is actually more of a technical marvel than perhaps we realise.
Now, as we move on to this next scene, going to go off on a little bit of a tangent. Obviously, as you just mentioned, there are some nice lighting features in this scene going on as well. But the interesting thing for me is if you really, really zoom in and ignore all of the people in the foreground, in the background, one of the DVD boxes is for what looks to be the accountant. Now, there was an advertisement in GTA 5 on CNT for a show called The Accountant. So that seems to be a reference to that kind of thing. And if we're talking about callbacks to GTA 5, then there is a reference to Michael's movie Meltdown in one of the website clips, which is really fascinating to see. There's a 1 second-ish clip on the website of Jason on his own robbing a store. And on the shelf in the background, amongst a whole load of other DVDs, is what looks like the box art for Michael's movie Meltdown. So does this suggest that Michael is still making films, or is it at least still relevant in the GTA 6 timeline? Or is it a nice Easter egg or one of those nods to say, this happened 13 years ago. Now it's on a bargain bin shelf on the DVD rack, which would make sense for kind of Michael's films, I guess.
Yeah, no idea, but I love the observation and the detail. I think the sense of us very clearly being in a shared universe is there, and there's multiple occasions where that happens. I was just looking up the Accountant TV show as you were talking. I instantly thought of the movie The Accountant. This is like an all-action film. This is not that.
No.
The Accountant in this universe actually looks more like Mad Men. And it talks about it being, the tagline for the show is life in the tax lane. And it says, there's like a thing that describes what's in the show. And it says, this week's episode is misogyny, domestic violence, booze, and banging secretaries. Hashtag I love the 50s. That's, for people who haven't seen it, that's just Mad Men. So, yeah, it's cute that this is all bound into the universe. I don't know beyond that. Does it definitely mean Michael's coming back? We'll have to see.
There's also a couple of little bits of attention to detail here. There's a very similar circular burn pattern across the light switches in this scene. Now, that could be, there's 2 light switches. It could be that they're just using the same texture, or there is something specific going on with this setup that is causing that to happen. I haven't done enough research to work out which way round that might be, but it's a very great little touch there.
Yeah, I don't know. And again, it's something that needs a bit more digging. One thing I would say about the scene that we can't see but we could hear, this is where we get these guys questioning Like, is this full of fed or whatever the exact wording is?
This full of fed? This full of fed?
I don't know what provokes that, apart from the fact that I guess he looks quite clean shaven and lovely. Whether it's what we talked about on the previous episode, something to do with his military tattoos, or something we haven't seen outside of this scene. But once again, we're seeing his allegiances questioned.
There's very much a sense throughout the community, at least, that there's strong Fast and Furious 1 vibes going on here. If you haven't seen Fast and Furious 1, spoilers. It follows Paul Walker, who plays Brian O'Connor, and Michelle Rodriguez, who plays Letty. Paul Walker, or Brian O'Connor, is a cop, but he befriends somebody, and then there's a whole trust dynamic going on about, you know, are you out of the game? Are you in the game? Are you just doing this because, you know, for your love of cars or for your love of me? There's a whole load of relationships going on, which is very similar to what we expect sort of the story to be here. Like, okay, you joined the program as a cop, but actually you ended up falling in love with the woman, and then where do your allegiances lie at the end of the day? They ended up making 10 films about that, so I can I think you can imagine where his allegiances actually ultimately went, and it was not back to the police force.
No, I get that, and it just all goes back to trust, doesn't it? Let's see. But there's clearly something up, or they want us to think something is up.
In this next scene, we can see these 3 guys who are clearly head up about something, I would imagine, on their way out of the building. The bit that I wanted to point out in this bit is there's a notice board in the background, and there's some really nice details on the notice board. One of which says, "Please return my bike." And then it has a description, "Grey BMX bike with a lightning bolt sticker. If you stole it from my apartment block last week, please return it. Somebody stole my car, and this is the only way I can get around now. I need it for job interviews. Please call 780-555-0134. On its own, this is just a nice bit of environmental storytelling that, you know, things are happening, there's crime going on in the world. But wouldn't it be lovely if this world building was some part of the side mission structure? So if you were in this building and you saw this poster, you could then go and find that bike out in the world that has been identified, grey bike, lightning bolt sticker. You could then ring that number on your iFruit phone and return it to the person in this apartment block as a kind of like secret side quest, but it actually does all work. I think that kind of thing would be incredible. Really, probably quite difficult to pull off, but I think it would be great.
I think it's the sort of thing you only have to get right in patches, so that if you did it and then later on you saw the person with the bike that you'd returned, it will create the illusion that everything is persistent, even if really they've set up 3 or 4 key moments that do it. I think that would be a really clever way to do it. And before we leave this scene, the only other thing worth noting is there's a poster. It's quite easy to see. It says La Pearl Caribbean Market. It's dated. I struggled a little bit to make out the wording, and I briefly got excited that it said Tuesday the 26th. And I thought, oh, wow, that's an Easter egg to the release date in 2026.
On launch day?
Unfortunately, no. I think it says Thursday 26th to Saturday 28th. So I think but that would tie into this theory we keep propagating of, are there dynamic time events in the game? This is like a 2 to 3 day event, like markets are, right? So it's whether that actually takes place over 2 to 3 days, then gets packed up and goes away or not. Could just be a poster. Either way, interesting detail.
And now we have Lucia, what looks to be escaping an apartment complex helped down by Jason. Now, they are wearing the same outfits here as they were in a previous screenshot, scene 36, if you're keeping up, which was in the Rusty Anchor. It looks like they're wearing the same outfits. Possibly even another one a bit later on in this trailer that you can see could be wearing the same stuff there. This looks, definitely is a different, let's call it a safe house, than we have previously seen Jason and Lucia hanging out in. This isn't the one that Jason's doing up. Obviously, this is in an apartment complex or some kind of high-rise building. And in the next scene, we can actually see Lucia being dropped from this window down a couple of stories. So it's definitely a different location. I would question whether some of the later scenes that we see when her and Jason are in another bedroom setting, whether that bedroom setting is within this building and they get disturbed at some point and then have to very quickly leave because of the presence of this police helicopter you can see above. But all of that is speculation on my part.
As you say it, I had what I would describe as a micro thunderbolt in terms of the plotting, because if this relates to thinking about the outfits, and I might not be standing this up right in my mind, talking about there's the scene at the end of trailer 1 where it's the trust scene, right? And I'm just trying to remember, I think Lucia is on top of Jason in that scene, right? When they say it. In the scene we get, which we'll get onto later on, it's a flip where Jason is on top of Lucia. Now, allegorically, I can't even say that, metaphorically, let's say, that is to say he is literally and metaphorically on top, right? Could it be that there's an inversion in the dynamic where Lucia is the one taking the lead and then Jason is the one in control later on, for example? And if that was the case, and it was all part of the same scene, is the police helicopter turning up at the hideout an accident? Or could it be a moment that he sold her out? Or someone's... Now, that could be totally off base. And I might be, in my mind, the Thunderbolt might have actually clouded my optics for what this scene actually is. But that would be really interesting if true, because there would be a visual tell on, who's on top in that relationship, and then it possibly leading to, Jason being outed and them having to flee from the police chopper. That might be wrong. And we'll look at that in more detail as we go into the plot, the characters, the chronology in further episodes. But as you say it was like a mini light went on.
Which has also inspired a mini light in my brain.
Oh my God.
Which would be later on in this sequence of shots, we see the police inside a slightly run down apartment complex, clearly looking for somebody. Now I'm thinking that because of the way that all of the scenes in this trailer are interconnected and from what we believe to be a small section of a number of missions, is them raiding that apartment complex, is this the outcome of it? They hear them smashing down doors and looking for people. They escape out the back. The police helicopter is already there. It's now, in my mind, all starting to join up as it being from pretty much the same sequence of events.
The only spanner I'm going to throw in not like in my works and your works, all of our works, is, and this is purely to do with the outfits. As we move on to I think it's the next screen where we see her land on the floor and you see the keep clear and all the debris. The top she is wearing looks like the top she is wearing in the Rusty Anchor, the bar, but the difference is that's got a zip detail on the back, and this one doesn't seem to have that. Now, whether that's an internal inconsistency or she has a number of crop tops that are almost but not quite the same, I don't know. And actually, whether that's true or not, it doesn't make what we've just said not true or not. It's just that the scene might not be as thoroughly connected as we think. But I think you're onto something. I think there is a clear chronology of events being told here, but in a fractured way. This was something that Hideo Kojima used to do brilliantly with his trailers. He would basically tell you the plot, but you didn't have the lens to understand it because the chronology was off and the context was off. So I feel like there's something going on there, and maybe we need to go away and unpick that in detail.
So let's jump forward then to the next scene where Jason is talking to Brian here. Brian has a Kenny Brewster t-shirt on, which could be a reference to Kenny Rogers.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of making that up, but like Kenny Rogers, the country and western singer, and famously of the Kenny Rogers Roasters, which I'm sure many people would. Yeah. Well, famously for a certain people. I think that might be a fun throwaway reference to that. Maybe not. We'll see. On his t-shirt, which is really faded, and you can actually see the cracking in the print, it looks a little bit like it's sort of embellished on top of a map, but it's really hard to make out. Now, I initially went, oh, look, it's like there's sea to the north. Is it the north coast? Probably not. It might be like more like the north of a different part, like maybe of the Keys or something. So not too much to read into that, really, but I thought it was a cute detail on the T-shirt.
Yeah, and the only thing extra in here is what we covered last week and I've covered before. The woman in the background, we believe is Laurie, which is Brian's wife. We have seen her in a number of other shots and a few other screenshots. So she always seems to be there hanging around in the background.
Yeah, and as we said, Laurie looks like she can handle herself. She got the gun in a previous scene. The tool bench in itself isn't that remarkable. There's no tools that made me go, I've never seen that tool before. But the fact that there is like an active tool bench, are they things you can use in the game? I don't know.
So these next few shots, the next two at least, is from what we were just talking about. Now this, I believe, is the raid on a building very much like the one we just saw Jason and Lucia escaping from. This first scene, number 48, has the three guys really up close coming into the shot. The one right at the beginning of the shot has an arm sleeve tattoo of what looks like, it's definitely a face, maybe a pink dog or a creature or something like that. I think you can get these in GTA Online, so I'd have to go and double check if this is one that is available or not. I'm sure you guys in the comments will be able to very quickly see if that's true or not.
Yeah, I didn't feel like these characters, there wasn't much to say about them because I didn't, apart from in this scene, I feel like I haven't seen them anywhere else. They're wearing an earpiece. So that feels like a nice touch for the way they communicate. And as we get to the next screen, we will see that who looks like the boss of this unit is also wearing an earpiece. So, this is one of those scenes that feels a little bit out of step with everything else and a bigger part of a mystery.
And here is that guy. So I think very much this is the raid on that place that Jason and Lucia may or may not be staying in for a night after maybe some criminal activity. You can see a knife, or looks like a knife, sort of graffiti on the wall here. It feels a bit more like a rundown place. This is not anywhere that we've previously seen, but we haven't yet got the identity of this main, what looks like to be, the main boss here.
Yeah, I haven't seen him anywhere else. There seems to be no allusion to who he is. I wondered whether the graffiti was some kind of gang sign or something, but again, I haven't looked at it closely enough to see, oh, look, these characters have always got this symbol or this. I haven't drawn those comparisons yet.
And you see him again in the next shot, very much waiting to identify him, but I think he's going to play a pretty key role on this side of the story, at least.
And I think the key thing of that scene where you see him face on is actually who you're not seeing, because there's two characters, like one very foreground, you can't make anything out, and one talking to this sort of police chief character. It feels sort of deliberate that they're not shown. And I guess it creates mystery around who is people, informants, whatever are.
Yeah, if you really wanted to jump quite a long way, you could suggest that the guy's arm in the foreground could be Jason. If you wanted to, you could suggest that.
Yes.
And here he is. The interesting bit here is he is the passenger in the car now. This is a red car, which does have some significance because we saw Jason and Lucia driving a red car in trailer 1. He here is on the passenger side. In trailer 1, it was Lucia who's on the passenger side. It's hard to tell if it's the same car from this really close-up image, but what we can tell is it's in Ocean Drive. So you can see on the right-hand side the sign for the Broadwalk Hotel, which actually puts this in quite a populated area at night time. And Jason's firing his gun into that populated area. We don't know what at or who at, but it would suggest that it's quite a public space. This isn't going to be, a quick hit and run sort of drive away on a suburban street. This is a very popular area that is going to bring you some heat, I would say.
Something I thought was nice here is, and this is I guess, to nod to the leaks without giving away anything remotely spoilery. But there was a note in the leaks from a couple of years ago where it said that you have the ability to get into the car from the main seat or the passenger seat. And he's very much on the passenger side in this one. So, yeah, that's an interesting little detail.
Now we can move on to meet another member of the GTA 6 cast. This is Bay Lux. They are one of 2 members of Real Dimes, which have a tagline, viral videos, viral hooks. Bay Lux and Roxy, aka Real Dimes, have been friends since high school. Girls with the savvy to turn their time shaking down local dealers into cold, hard cash via spicy rap tracks and a relentless social media presence. There is a quote that says, "All my dimes in this club, meet my twin, make it a dub." That could be some song lyrics rather than a quote, if sung properly, which I am not going to do. They believe that they are one hit away from fame. They had an early hit single with local rapper Dawnply. Is that how we're going to say that?
Oh, Dawnply. Who knows?
Which took Real Dimes to new heights. And now, after 5 years and a whole lot of trouble, they're signed to Only Raw Records, hoping lightning can strike twice. Only Raw Records is Dr. Quan Priest, who we will meet in a second. He seems to be the owner of that record label. But this is some quite prominent people that I think we're going to see quite a lot throughout, at least in and around the world when we're hanging around.
It feels like they've got a bigger significance to the plot. They're quite, they're one of the main characters on the website. They've appeared in a lot of the trailers. It feels like it should be more than them just being sort of a grifter type rappers who want to make it. It feels like there's something more there. There might be something in the fact that it talks about them, I guess, basically leveraging real life street scenarios and gang problems for their videos and inspiration for their lyrics. Perhaps there's something they filmed or done or seen that becomes part of a much bigger conspiracy. We don't know that for sure yet. Humorous aside, when she makes the sort of gun sign with her fingers, she has the longest fingers I've ever seen. And not just because she has the most incredible fingernails I've ever seen. Now, whether that's just for that character or there are such extensive customization options that you go down the level of like changing your fingernails if you were Lucia. That's the sort of thing, you would like to expect to be able to do with Lucia, to really customize it to the max. That's all wait and see stuff, but I think that would be super cool.
Well, Dan, wait until we get a few scenes further through this trailer, and I might have some pieces of information for you about that very thing.
Oh, and before we move on, we mustn't forget, in the background, we can glimpse the train monorail system, which relates to a transit system that actually was first hinted at in the leaks going back a few years. So that could be they're just fixing some leaks or confirming some leaks, potentially.
The next shot, and we're back in the 919 nightclub. The outfits are the same. It's just a continuation of the dance scene that we saw earlier. I don't think we need to dwell on this any further.
The only thing I was going to say was, is it possible to read the time on the watch again? I
tried really hard,
yeah,
and I don't think it is.
I think I also failed, so let's move on.
We will move on to being outside of the Starlet Motel. This has, as you'll be pleased to know, Dan, king-size beds, pool, and Wi-Fi. Great stuff. We can see Jason throwing someone against the car here. There's a car on fire in the background. There's a lot of stuff that has gone on in this scene. There's another shot of this location, which would put this in Port Gellhorn. So we'll be able to identify exactly where this is probably in the coming weeks. We will take all of these screenshots and be able to plot them on a map and work out exactly where everything is in relation to other things. So that will be coming up soon. In that screenshot from the Port Gellhorn pack, this is looking in the opposite direction. And here we can actually see a pool with some sun loungers in this shot, which if you go back to the 2022 leaks, is one of the locations that one of those videos featured. There are lots of conspiracy theory or like people who are very into conspiracy theories seem to reside in and around Port Gellhorn, which might tie back to some of the things we talked about last week.
Or like also in this scene, you can see quite notably like a burning SUV style vehicle. Now, I guess whether somebody or one of these people we see in the frame was in that car, they get out, or whether that's something in the background. There's also like an emergency services or commercial pickup truck that we see in that scene. Just before we move on, we were debating, is it 100% Jason doing the throwing? It does look like his face. The thing I would note is this is the longest I think I've seen his hair in any of the scenes of the trailer. So if there is a chronology, that would imply that this is either very far deep into time or before in time, because most of the haircut he has is that crop haircut. So it's either, months after or years before. You also notice he's got a little bruise of blood on his elbow, which is quite significant. So whether your characters will have, whether your characters will actually get, real-time cuts, bruising, etc., we'll wait and see.
What you might get some cuts and bruising from, how do you like that link? That's pretty good, is fighting. And here we can see Lucia in what appears to be a cage match, doing some kickboxing. Now, does this hint at a return of cage fighting that we saw in GTA 4, the Ballad of Gay Tony, or is it just a nice way to show, Lucia is very into fighting? As we mentioned in the last episode, all of Lucia's background is very much around fighting, and all of the wording is about her fighting her way out of difficult situations and now hoping for a better life in Vice City. The only thing to note here that maybe is unusual is that she's not wearing her necklace, like the boxing necklace. Now, most people would say, well, of course, because you don't wear jewelry when you're doing cage fighting.
It'd be high risk.
But she is wearing some really massive hoop earrings. So she's not taken all her jewelry off. So then why would she not be wearing the necklace?
And there's actually a little series of scenes coming up where she's not wearing the necklace, which, as we will talk about, are possibly on a different bit of chronology. So, whether in the necklace we marked as significant in the last episode, why it goes on or off, or where we are in it, perhaps there's something to break down there. I think there will be some sort of fight thing. It seems pretty significant. Fighting is clearly integral to her character and background, so this is a nice touch. We can also see in this scene like a guy in the background filming or taking photos, so just ties into that sort of dynamic events and selfies feel.
Now, this is one of those scenes where she's not wearing that necklace, I believe. You can see Jason and Lucia in their apartment. You may be questioning whether this is the same house as the one that we see at the beginning of the trailer that Jason is renovating. I'm going to say that it definitely is. What's happened here is it's slightly to the, as we're looking at it, right-hand side. The thing you see in the background is a sheet that's been hung up over the window. And later on in this trailer, we actually see that gets replaced with a lovely blind. But that corridor on the left-hand side, the door that you can just about make out and see some light through, is the front door of the house. So a bit further to the left of this is where their snake lives, in the tank. Later on, we see this same sofa is the one that Jason and Lucia ended up having a nice relaxing time on while they're watching TV.
Totally agree. This would, I guess, either it's really before the house is done up, or they're pulling it apart to renovate it after, because his haircut is now short and cropped, where we see him when he's fixing some leaks, his hair's a bit more mottled and what have you. But what is clear is that the apartment is being renovated in some way. And as we've said, her boxing glove necklace is missing now for reasons.
The next scene is a continuation of this shot when Jason and Lucia are having a conversation. We covered the Gellhorn International t-shirt in last week's episode. There was some debate about whether this was going to be another international airport. It is, in fact, a raceway, or at least based on a raceway. You can see a car just at the very bottom of her t-shirt there, doing a bit of research. This is the Sebring Raceway in Miami. It's a reference to that, now I imagine called Gellhorn International Raceway. And now we have only piece of major action in the trailer where there is a lot of things going on. Lucia is here holding what I believe is a grenade launcher and firing at the pursuing cars. There's a police car here from Vice-Dale. There's also a SWAT van. It looks to me like she is wearing the bandana from the bank heist that we saw earlier. So is this the aftermath of that bank heist? Like they are escaping from the police after having done quite what we suspect is a public robbery, because when we look at the other clips on the website of the three of them leaving, that's like it's in the daytime, they're in a big street. It's the kind of Heat style video that we mentioned last week.
Yeah.
What kind of vehicle do you think she is in here?
Yeah, like you've speculated, like a bus. It does look that way. It's really large and wide framed, so that would make complete sense. I think in terms of standing at what you were saying about it looks like it's the escalation of the Raul Batista heist that we've talked about. I was just looking side by side, and she's wearing what looks like quite a high-necked bulletproof vest. And to see those two, there's on the official website, you can see the Raul Batista artwork that scrolls slowly, and you see this. It looks the same. Her hair is tied up the same. So it's logical to suggest this is the escalation of that scene. And like we talked about on last week's show, this doesn't feel like something, once you've gone there with this style of destruction, you're not a low-level crook anymore.
No.
And if she'd done this and got paroled, like I'd be really surprised, because if you're firing a rocket launcher at a police car, I don't think you're getting out anytime soon, right?
No.
So this to me says this is later in the story.
Yeah, I think like we're of the assumption that whole jail time for Lucia is early in the story, and I would imagine, you would work your way out of doing that community service style things as a way to tutorialize some of the new features in the game.
Yeah.
And keep Lucia locked to a certain location for a while, in much the same way as the bridges used to operate. You would just now be, oh, you still got your ankle tag on, you can't go in these places. So, yeah, and then I think after that, this happens. And now we move on to everybody's favorite scene because it has the word manatees in it. This is where we meet Draquan Priest. He is, as we mentioned, I think the owner of Only Raw Records. He was described on the website as always more of a hustler than a gangster, even when he was dealing on the streets to make ends meet. Breaking into music was the goal. The screenshots show him hanging out with Bay Lux and Roxy, aka Real Dimes, and as we know, he was the one that has now signed them up. He's got a Manatees football jersey on, and as we mentioned a couple of episodes ago, this is Rockstar's take on the Miami Dolphins. Branding is very much the same. A nice little detail here, I think, is he's wearing the number 19 shirt, and the number 19 does seem to be an important number to him. He's brought the football jersey with that number on, but he's also got the same number tattooed on his hand that you can identify in some other screenshots. He's got a number of other tattoos that say things like stay humble, win some, lose some, but the number 19 does, for some reason, seem to be significant to Mr. Priest.
Yeah, and I wonder what they're reacting to, like what on the phone is making them go, like they both look pretty surprised by it. I don't know exactly what.
Surprised, shocked.
Yeah, shocked. So something's clearly going on that screen. You'd noted, well, this is for you, James. You're the number one observer of dogs. You've noticed the dog in the background.
There is a dog in the background. This, I believe, is dog number 2. No, dog number 3 for the trailer. We've seen the woman holding the chihuahua. We have seen another dog being walked in the park. And here is dog number 3. I think it looks like a Doberman to me, but it's being a very good boy and just sitting down waiting for, I imagine, the two people taking selfies to finish doing that so they can continue their walk.
Yeah, and I'd noted off, like, who knows what people's persuasion or sexuality is, but I'd noticed they're quite camp. Like the pose he's taking the selfie with is quite camp. That might in itself mean nothing, but what I would say is that's a nice touch for diversity and representation within the game.
Couple of quick other things. Priest's necklace has the symbol on it for only raw records, so you'll easily be able to identify him in other scenes. I imagine he'll wear that quite a lot. And watch fans, the time on his watch says 5 minutes past 4 in the afternoon. So if we're putting things into a timeline, this is what 5 minutes past 4 in the afternoon looks like in Vice City. Speaking of things being out of order, this scene feels like maybe the most significant one that has escalated into something else. Now, this is Lucia, who I believe is the one in the high-vis jacket here, suggesting that she is snuck onto the plane, and another woman who's jumping to tackle her. It's reasonably easy to identify where this plane is actually flying over. Its landing gear is down. I think in real life it's flying over Bricknell Park, and then the One Miami Consortium. So it's sort of south to north. The plane is flying from the south to the north. The Vice City International Airport would be to the west of this, I believe. But for this plane to then be able to get to that airport, it would have to almost do a 45-degree bank. So I don't think it's landing in there, but all of that probably needs a little bit more investigation and research to work out what all of these buildings are. And I know some of the people on GTA forums are already doing that.
Yeah, it does feel like a very out of time scene and a very high escalation scene, because it's like something out of Uncharted, isn't it? It's pretty wild. So it's hard to square this up with, for example, them robbing a corner store like we see at the end of trailer 1. So, it feels deeper in the chronology. Let's see.
And then somewhat in the middle of those two things, between corner store and getting onto a jet plane, is this scene where they are robbing a vault or a safe. Now, I guess the thing to discuss here is this street looks, to me, residential. So we're either robbing an individual or like a high-powered or mid-powered someone associated with gangs or something, or we're just driving through this neighborhood to get away from the place where we've robbed this from. Like, I can see this kind of safe being in, a very opulent house that you could rob it from as an individual. And equally, it could be a sort of small scale bank that might have one of these things.
Yeah, it's whether I mean, I assume you can't accidentally pick up a safe of this size and end up with it. It can't be a thing they did on the hoof. It must be quite a planned endeavor to do that. And so I don't know where I stand and what you were proposing. Something I would say that visually is interesting here, apart from the amazing spark effects as it gets dragged and sort of whistled along the tarmac, as the safe hits the tree, there's a cascade of brown leaves. And I'd meant to flag this earlier on in the scene where Lucia is jumping down from the apartment, where there's loose leaves all over the roof there. Some people were speculating that there will be, whether it's a proper autumnal weather system or whether it's just a nice particle effects realism thing. But that's a really cool and amazingly technical thing.
So moving on to the scene that you referenced earlier about Jason now being on top and it being the reverse of the end of trailer 1. Here, Lucia's necklace is back. So we can see it quite prominently there, the boxing gloves. This location, I believe, is different than the one that we see at the end of trailer 1. The lighting is different. The bed and the headboard doesn't look the same. So it's a different place that is quite hard to place. The lighting is very much the same as the one that we see of basically just arms and bodies.
Yes.
Whether it's the same thing or not, it's difficult to tell, but it feels like it is from the same place.
Yeah, it feels more symbolically important to me, this scene.
And now we see what you believe, I think, Dan, is a reference to the game's selfie mechanic for the first time.
Like, I might be wrong here. This visually looks like. I'm sure everyone saw that demo that they did for Death Stranding 2 and about the photography in selfie mode, where suddenly the graphics become ultra real and it adds that depth of field portrait effect that you get on iPhones, where it's just like a very sharp, brings the character in the front very sharply into focus. Now, this could be based on the grid frame and the play or, the capture button there. I wonder if this is them showing off that kind of mechanic within the game, even down to, and this is similar to Death Stranding, the characters make sort of out of step expressions that feel like, you look at Lucia's face when you go frame by frame, it just seems not like a standard in-game expression. It's just richer, deeper, a bit more wacky. So I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but it feels like this is a glimpse at an in-game mechanic of this style.
What we are yet to establish, however, is who this person is. He appears to know Jason and Lucia. He's the one in the trailer, I think, that you can hear shout, "Say Vice City, baby," to get everyone to appear to look happy. This is from the same scene as the 919 nightclub scene that we see them enter earlier. If you go frame by frame through the shot, you can actually see Lucia's yellow dress strap on her shoulder, which to me, and the lighting in the background is very much the same as the one where they're dancing. So it's from the same night. Whether this is a significant character or not is yet to be established, or, have these two found fame somewhere and this guy just wants a selfie with them? Let's see.
Something I would know, this is really silly, looking at the angle of his arms and assuming that, I was assuming he was taking the picture. It doesn't look like he's holding the phone because his arms aren't in the right position. Now, it would say to me, he's using the fated selfie stick.
Yeah.
I hate selfie sticks, but it's interesting that they would exist within the universe, and whether these sort of things always appear this way or this is a one-off, we don't know. But yeah, selfie stick not pictured.
Hey folks, producer Nathan here, long time listener, first time speaker. Just quickly jumping in to say that this handsome young guy can also be spotted in the rusty anchor beside Jason and Lucia, hinting that he's maybe a friend or a bar buddy who's joined them at the club. Some folk have even guessed that he could be a relation of Lucia's, maybe like a brother or a cousin or something, who knows. Anyway, just wanted to jump in and say that. Back to JJ and Dan.
So let's take a trip back to Ocean Drive here. We can see in front of the Dominion Hotel is what looks to be a benefactor shafter. The first thing to note is check out the rims on that car. Like, it's got some incredible modifications going on with giant spikes coming out the side. But the most interesting thing for me here is the guy that we see having a photo with 3 women.
Yes.
And I am going to make the statement here that these 3 women are more important than anybody is giving them credit for. We have seen these 3 women, I believe, twice in trailer 1, once at the beach in the daytime, and then once walking down this street, or near enough this street, at night. And here they are again in the daytime, all hanging out together. They appear to be, if someone's getting a selfie with them, some kind of either local celebrities or infamous people that people want to have pictures with and be seen with. Who they are is yet to be determined, but I think they're going to play a more significant role than we think.
Yeah, I initially, because we were looking at the screenshots, and I was like, are they the same people? Because there's slight cosmetic differences. But when you see them side by side, I think it's pretty clear. Like, they are the same people. Why would Rockstar have them appear at 3 separate instances across the 2 trailers unless there was something there, whether it's significant to the plot or something about them and a mechanic or a system that we're not seeing or exploring properly?
Yeah, this isn't them running out of models and just putting character models and just putting them, I don't know, plonk those 3 people back in the scene, it will work. There is something in this that is yet to be established. And I will say the woman in the blue bikini in this shot in trailer 2 does seem to have more tattoos on her leg than she does in trailer 1. Now, this could just be, like we've seen some of the other characters, a like trailer 2 glow up for some of these characters.
Yeah.
Or it hints to being, NPCs evolving over time and, having different looks and getting tattoos throughout the story. But, that would be a nice touch.
And you're right. And I think that there's other instances of this across the trailers and even in the main characters. Like we see very noticeably that like Jason's face has improved in his model. And you go back in time, you look at GTA 5 trailer 1 to what it became, the characters change.
Yeah.
As the build develops and the graphics get refined, there is that level as well.
So we flip this into a nighttime scene now where everybody is having a great party time. There's a sign that says taste the pleasure and lots of ladies dancing on the roof. The only question I had for this was what is going on here and why is it such a big party? I don't believe everyone is going to be dancing on the roofs every night of the week, but I could be wrong. So there's obviously some kind of significant party happening here. And I'd just like you all to spare a thought for the guy on the far left who is sitting alone next to some trees on his phone.
Yeah, I think what apart from the fact that we probably live in the wrong part of the world, James, and maybe this does happen every single night somewhere.
Possibly.
Is in this scene you actually see people interacting with their phone in different ways. So you can see that kind of sad looking guy or the guy taking a break looking at his phone to browse it. There's also in the foreground, it looks almost like a guy is taking someone's number on the phone. So I guess again, it's the phone as having multiple purposes. Like life, we're all using our phones all the time.
Continuing with the theme of things taking place at night. Well, I guess you can go to this club in the day if you wanted to, but it feels nighttime-ish because of the lighting. We are here in the Jack of Hearts Club. You can see a sign for this in the background, and one of the dancers has a JH top on. This is the same club that we saw in trailer 1, albeit again with trailer 2 graphics. There's a couple of signs here for Seduction Saturday and Sinful Sunday, which again plays into the are things going to happen on specific days of the week.
Yeah.
The really deep cut here is that the banknotes actually have the presidents from Red Dead Redemption 2 on them. So we can see President Cornwall and President Hardin on some of the banknotes as where you would put the serving, as you would put the presidents of the United States on those banknotes. They are presidents from back in the Red Dead 2 days. Now, I think all this is doing is it having a nice Easter egg and a reference towards those old games. But it does, again, point to Rockstar tying everything together and saying, all of these things are now connected. And what would we call that, Dan? Is it the GTA verse, the Rockstar verse? Because, we've got Remedy having the Remedy verse that connects Control and Alan Wake and all of that kind of thing. We've got the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It does feel to me now like Rockstar are trying to bring all of these things together in a way that either subtly connects them or just gives fans a nice hint towards the other games.
Yeah, I wish I had a cleverer name for it, like the Rockstar Connected Universe, the Rockstar Galaxy. I don't know. Those names are terrible, so strike all of them off. It just seems very deliberate. And there's, as we talked about in trailer 1's analysis, or the first part of this trailer's analysis, there's just loads of little tells that are calling out lore throughout Rockstar's history.
Which we can see quite prominently in this shot. Now, this is the same apartment that we've been talking about before. You can see the same parasol out the back. It's clearly having work done on it. There's paint rollers, an interior paint pot, and a jigsaw, I think, on top of a big storage chest on the left-hand side. There's the heavily debated, is it a PS5?
No.
Is it whatever console, which is, I think, a play on a Sony console to the left of the TV. We've seen consoles appear in GTA before, obviously. In GTA 5, Jimmy had the Exorbo 720, which was the video game console that he had in his house. This appears to be now the new generation console for GTA 6. There's also a controller on the table, which, again, has been much debated about whether it's a PS4 or PS5 style controller. It's clearly, either way, a rip-off on Sony this time, whereas
Yes.
previously it was Xbox.
Yes, and I cannot believe the heat I've got for not saying on the Bible it's a DualShock 4. And if you say to people online that it's not a DualShock 4, they get furious. I will just add once again, it is not connecting to a PlayStation 4. And in fact, the bigger point, as you just made, it's all made up.
Yeah.
So let's not get too worried about that one.
The big point here, and speaking back to the connected universe, is the advert on the TV here is for Phil's Ammunition. The tagline for that is protecting your rights. The question was whether this is Phil Cassidy from GTA Vice City. The answer to that is almost unequivocally going to be no, because in Vice City, Phil blew his arm off. And unless something miraculous has happened, he's got 2 arms in this trailer. So it's not him, unless we are, mixing the 3D era with the HD character lore. But I don't believe we're doing that. I think what is more plausible is that Phil's Ammunition as a brand has continued, and perhaps this is his son or relative who is now running the store.
Yeah, sure. Or he's got incredible synthetic robotic arms.
Or that.
Which seems less plausible.
Either way, it's a really nice callback. But yeah, I think if you are trying to suggest that it's him, he's now got an extra arm from somewhere and is probably about 40 years younger than he should be. So it's not going to work out. Now, what we could do here is go through all of the guns in the background and identify all of the weapons that may or may not now be in GTA 6. That is an entire other episode.
Oh, it is.
So we will, cover that at some point in the future. What I will say about the guns is that some of them, at least, seem to be manufactured by Duke, which is the same Duke that made the weapons in Red Dead Redemption 2. So it's the same weapon manufacturer and now making the guns, or still making guns, to this day. Again, most likely a nod and an Easter egg for really hardcore fans of Rockstar's games. But on the other hand, could just be the brands continuing throughout all of the series that Rockstar are creating. And quickly, just before we move on, check out the bubbles in the beer, Dan. They're moving.
Oh, yeah, it's a super fun, tiny detail.
And this scene is the reverse of that shot. So now we're looking from the TV out into the apartment. Lucia is coming home from the community service that we saw her doing earlier in the trailer. She's got an LCD high vis on, which I imagine stands for the Leonida Department of Corrections, which identifies them all as doing that kind of work while they're picking up all of the litter. The house here may be further along than before. The bedroom window we can see in the background that previously had that green sheet hanging over it now has a lovely blind. So there's been some progress here, but still looks like there's some work to do. Outside of the city now, and we are flying over the marshland, most likely the grasslands area. But the thing I wanted to highlight here is, on first glance, you may think that the guy hanging out the helicopter is holding some kind of weapon or like minigun ready to shoot whatever comes into vision. But actually, I believe he is holding a camera and it is mounted on a tripod. So does this suggest some kind of wildlife spotting or hunting side activity rather than a criminal escape?
Yeah, I think that'd be much more interesting. And there's the screenshots that we haven't analysed yet, and we will. Some of them show what looks almost like alligator rustling or crocodile rustling. So whether you're trying to bust those guys, or I think perhaps more plausibly trying to spot different bits of like animal life in the Riverland, let's wait and see.
There's some further evidence to support that in this next shot. We can see what I believe is a boar, but somebody please correct me if I'm wrong. I originally wrote water buffalo, but they have giant horns, I think. So it looks more like a boar to me that's just running out of the shot. The only other thing to note is this is just, again, the incredible amount of detail from the interior of the chopper.
Yeah.
You can see like all of the switches and the dials. It's a huge step up from GTA 5. Moving on from that, and we see Jason and Lucia back having a good time here. They're riding a sea shark around the bay. Could this, I think as we mentioned last week, be the same location as the boat that we see them on earlier in the trailer, you could make that argument. Again, we will map all of these locations in a later episode and probably be able to identify whether that could be the case or not. But not much more to say about this scene other than they're having a nice time.
Yeah, I briefly got excited thinking, is this a reverse of the dad bod squad thing? Now, actually, the boat's different. So, like, the boat in the dad bod squad is green. There's people partying, but I don't think it's literally the same scene or location. But, you know, let's look at that again.
The next scene is a lot more interesting, where we see Jason riding this motorcycle as a seaplane flies overhead. You can, if you pause it in the right place, identify this seaplane via the number on its wing, N57191C. The question would be, is this the same seaplane that we see them loading up back in earlier in the trailer in scene number 30? And I'm going to say yes. Yes, it is. The numbers on the wing, you can match them up. If you look at that screenshot and zoom into it, you can just about make out a 157 on the wing in that nighttime shot. The likelihood of two planes having N57 and then some other numbers is slim, I would say. So this is either before or after that load up in the night. I'm going to say that maybe this is the morning after and they've loaded the plane up and now we're heading off somewhere. But, you know, let's work that out. So that's one potential heist setup. And in this shot, we can see another one. This is them robbing what looks like a sports car. And the most interesting bit here is that the truck has a Liberty City number plate. Now, the discussion point around this is, if the map is an island, like previous GTA games, how does a truck from Liberty City end up in Vice City? By boat, I'd imagine. But normally, you know, in real life, to get from Liberty City to Vice City, you would just drive across the land.
You just drive, and there might be things like bridges and stuff like that.
Yeah. But what does this mean for Vice City and its connection to Liberty City and the map in general? Like, if it's going to be surrounded by water, fine. But is there going to be some roads out that somehow you are just blocked from going down too far?
This will all dovetail with what the mapping project, the excellent mapping project people are doing. It might be that this is why they're leaning into the equivalent of like Georgia and a mountainous area, because mountains are brilliant for providing, in what used to be in video games, the invisible Truman Show style wall, where you hit the edge of an environment. I think with mountain ranges, you can just make them impossible to fly or climb over. So that might be their get out. But in theory, someone could drive across the winding road. It's just they don't give you that option in the invisible perimeter of the map. Like, we'll wait and see with all of that stuff. But that seems to be where the mapping project people are thinking at the moment. So rather than us having a completely, like you say, completely water exposed island, it seems to like cut at the top.
Or there's, like you say, mountains, or, a tunnel that is for some reason blocked up.
Yeah.
And you can no longer drive down
conveniently closed forever.
Yeah. In this next shot, we can actually see a wider scene here. It's the same thing, but from a slightly wider angle. It allows you to identify where we are going. We're driving into the city, I believe. But again, we will make sure that we tie all of that up. What you can see is some of the buildings surrounding the truck here. There is one for Megamundo, which I believe is a Spanish language news company. And this appears, I guess, to be their headquarters. It's based on Telemundo, which is an American Spanish terrestrial network in the US. We have previously seen this in trailer 1. It had a hashtag Megamundo News.
Ah, very good.
When we were looking at the shot of the Joker.
Yes.
On the news report, you can see them putting their hashtag underneath it. So that appears to be the building of their headquarters. And there's also 2 instances of what looks like a sort of Pride-style flag going on.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen other people pick up on that. There's definitely the coloration, which makes perfect sense. Depending on where you stop the frame, you can actually see the number plate quite clearly. So you can see the number plate of the truck is PDP E6. And then I should probably be able to identify the actual car they're stealing. I haven't done that. It looks like one of the supercars, basically. And that says ZNS H3. And that's also a Leonida plate. And I think it says underneath, Coastline State, I think. Now, the thing I thought was really interesting, when you capture and zoom on that number plate, the background of the number plate has what looks like it is an orange with 2 green leaves.
And where have we seen that before?
Well, in the Two Islands postcard that did the rounds from various fan sites, where we'd said on the last episode, we don't think it's 2 islands. It actually looks more like 2 oranges with some leaves on it opposite the sun. Now, when you put this number plate alongside the postcard, it's not 100% map, but it would say the iconography of the oranges, or whatever they call it, Sunshine State, Orange County, whatever they call it, there's something there that's consistent. So I would say that this is proof that within the Leonida universe, the oranges with the little green leaves on them is a recurrent motif. And I think would then make it even less likely that the postcard is of 2 islands.
Yes. Oranges on the postcard confirmed. Next up, we have them in the motel. Now, this is, I'm certain, the same motel that we see at the end of trailer 1. It looks like Jason has just come back and Lucia is very excited to see him. So has she been waiting for him to return from doing something that they thought may or may not go the way that they wanted to? And he's arrived and everything's great. That's what I would read into her reaction here. Watch fans, time update. Dan, I think you wrote this, or maybe I did. It looks like it's 10:50 or 11:50. If you pause and zoom in.
It's real hard to be sure here.
And we will just round off this shot by saying, cute little thing, in case of fire, everyone should meet by the pool.
Oh. And jump in as the flames lick the building.
Yeah, if you want. Next up, there's only a couple of scenes left to go. This is a pretty nondescript boat being chased by a Vicedale helicopter. This is not the same boat that we have seen in trailer 1 when they are driving through the port. It's a totally new thing, but not much to go over in this scene. However, this one, there is quite a few things to point out. Most notably that we are entering Port Gellhorn here.
Yeah, there's a very clear sign saying, welcome to Port Gellhorn. It's not a very glorious welcome because it looks like you're deep in trouble. There's signs all over this. There's one in the background for the I think it's the Crossroad Park mini mall. It's a mall, of course, there's malls. Then up on the top, the signage on the freeway, we've got the 404 East with an arrow pointing left to Mariana County and Vicedale County. We just talked about the Vicedale police chopper. So this seems like similar location. Then we've got the 9 North, which goes to Draper Island. Have we talked about Draper Island before?
Not yet, I don't think, no.
No, it felt new to me, so I don't know what that means or if it's of any greater significance, but in my mind, that was like the first reference to it. And then we've also got, and this I guess might actually weirdly root back round to what I was saying earlier, and you were saying you might have a treat for me, the Happy Nails shop.
Yeah, here comes the treat. Happy Nail shop on the very far left-hand side. If you zoom in enough, you can see this on a row of shops. Now, throughout the trailer, as we mentioned, Lucia and other characters have different length nails and designs. This, to me, would seemingly confirm the presence of that type of shop where you can go and get custom designs and different things like that in the same way as we used to go and get haircuts and buy different outfits. Nail bars have obviously become quite the thing since GTA 5 to GTA 6 in the last 10 or so years. It doesn't surprise me that this is here. It would also not surprise me that this is how you go and customize that part of your outfit. And then Lucia is driving the car here as Jason makes the jump and grabs it. The thing I would like to discuss is Where has Jason actually jumped from here, do you think? It feels like in the first frame that he is coming from above the car. So there is a potential that he's jumped off a bike or something small like that. It's definitely not from another car. But as you skip forward in the scene, there's nothing like left on the road. Like there's no vehicle or anything that Jason would have been driving, which would have then lost control and skidded off somewhere or done whatever. So where do we think he's come from? Or do we think he has come from a bike and it's just for some reason had to be removed because maybe it's too much of a spoiler or a hint towards something else?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it does look like he's sort of he's dropping and from the side. But he's able to, with his last gasp, reach out his right arm and save himself. So he's clearly been moving at pace. It's really hard to know, right? And Rockstar do have form for omitting key details from key scenes. So it's hard to say. I guess you could say, at best, it's an amazing bit of animation. The way his body reacts, his musculature reacts, that's fine. But you're right. I think there's probably, perhaps deliberately, something missing there.
What hasn't been left out is that they drive past a shop called Burnout Scooters, which I imagine are small motorbike type things rather than e-scooters, but who knows? And there's a sign for Watkins Auto Parts, another phone number here in the trailer, 305-555-0128. I hope somebody is noting all of these down and will immediately call all of them as soon as we get our hands on it. And the final two scenes here, this one is from within Brian's boat workshop,
yes.
I imagine. And there's quite a number of stickers here on the left-hand side.
Yeah, on the little workbench, there's a few little stickers. One says Canis. I initially got excited and went, oh, it's Canis, Canimed, it's Bully. No, it's in fact GTA's version of the Jeep brand. So Canis is quite well known to GTA players. There's an 8-ball sticker. Whether this is just an 8-ball sticker or is it a little throwback to the character 8-ball from GTA 3 or Liberty City Stories. 8-ball was kind of a firearms dealer who did some sort of bomb stuff with him. Who knows? But at a minimum, it's a very nice callback. There's various other logos which felt a touch less significant. Now, you see Cal Hampton again. Fun fact, Cal's holding a beer, and as he moves his arms up and down, you can see the fluid bounce out of the bottle, which is another really cute little mechanic. He's also like mega oily and sweaty. Now, if you zoom onto his right leg, you are then starting to see the tattoo that, as we identified last week, is where the Pigsy, inverted commas, tattoo is. It looks a lot like Pigsy. But in this instance, it looks a bit less like Pigsy, and there's like another face by the side of it. But it's so blurry. I struggle to put the two together. But in theory, you should be able to see the Pigsy tattoo on his leg here. I'll have to go back to this, sharpen it, and be a bit more clear. But there is something else next to the Pigsy tattoo in this version of it.
What I will say, Dan, is I like the Pigsy theory and the fact that it's, I think, sort of like is entered the myth and legend sort of world of GTA 6 rather, because we know that the Manhunt City is mentioned quite a lot throughout the GTA universe. Like it definitely exists.
Yeah.
Pigsy is obviously dead. If you haven't played,
he's highly likely to be dead.
Yeah, yes, he's definitely highly likely to be dead. But what could happen, a la Scream, is that people have now recreated some of those things, and you could have an instance of a Pigsy-style murder spree within GTA 6.
Yeah, to become Pigsy, you basically need to kill people and wear the pig mask.
Yeah.
And so the spirit of Pigsy could well live on. And I think for people who closely followed the leaks, you might be putting two and two together here.
Which leads us on to the final shot of the trailer. Well, bar one. The next one is the end slate, which is a lovely wide shot of the city. Very easy to pinpoint this, as we will do in future episodes. Couple of key points here is there's a dedicated cycle lane for bikes, which is new. So that'll be fun to see and be able to ride around safely, hopefully, on your bike. The car that we see here is perhaps the most interesting bit. It is red. It is the same one from trailer 1. You can match up the number plates, which is N9C T4M. Very much the same. But what is different is this car is missing all of the bumper stickers and stickers from the rear window that are on the car in trailer 1. This either hints to an incredible level of detail of you being able to add stickers to your cars now and put brands that you like within your cars, or it's at a different point in time. And what helps back up that theory is that the door here in this trailer 2 shot is a different color than the rest of the car, which suggests it's either been replaced or resprayed at some point. Most likely, I would say, is at some point that door gets smashed off, perhaps in some kind of getaway attempt, and they've just had to replace it with another door that is now grey and not red. Dan
Agreed.
nods along.
I'm nodding, sorry. I sounded so f***ing right. I agree. I think like customization, yes. Nod.
All of which leads us to the end slate that says GTA 6, May 26th, 2026, all footage captured on PlayStation 5. So for anyone who is still debating whether this is, pre-rendered stuff, it is not. It is right there, stated for you, captured on PlayStation 5. They've reiterated the May 26th date. And as we said in part 1 of this huge analysis, it feels likely that May 26th is going to be the date now. I would not anticipate another delay now it has been dated, especially given the fact that this ties into the anniversary of Bonnie's funeral and Ray Liotta's death.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a date, but let's put it this way. This is a date they definitely don't want to miss.
No.
And there's a big difference between saying, like they did, fall 2025, which gives you immediately a 3-month shoot, to it's definitively this day. And I'd have to go back and double check this. Certainly with GTA 5, when they locked the date to the day, they stuck to it. It's just that when they had a window, they had flexibility.
Yeah.
They don't anymore. Will we get more on that in the earnings call later today? I don't know. Probably not, because I don't think Strauss-Zelnick knows any more than us whether they're definitively 100% going to hit that date. But I guess they set it sufficiently far forward in the future. They would have gone, come on, let's be clear about where we are. Is there any danger of us missing this date? No, it feels safe. And it ties in with these dates, and it's really lovely. So done. Let's go for that. Who knows? As we said, there could be an EMP blast. So anything could happen to stop it.
Yes.
But, I can't think of many games that were delayed by an EMP blast.
No, not in the reality that we live in now.
No.
Maybe in video game world,
No.
EMPs are much more prevalent.
Just in my mind, I'm quite tired.
Yes.
So, yes.
Well, that wraps up this huge analysis of the GTA 6 trailer 2. Thank you all for watching. As always, you can get in touch with us on Twitter at GTAVOclock or via email gtavio'clock@gmail.com. We've seen all of your emails coming in over the last week from the last episode. Thank you all for pointing out everything. We will probably do an episode where we go through and discuss all of the points that you've raised, equally with all of the comments. Thank you so much. I am now very much aware that iguanas are present all throughout of Miami. So that was a great piece of information. Now I want to go there even more. There is also a newsletter you can sign up for, gamesradar.com/newsletter, where Dan will make all of this into a compact 1 sheet's worth of information.
Oh, my life. Do you know, and as we leave this call, that's literally my job this afternoon. The mere act of condensing 4 hours of screenshot analysis into 3 cogent paragraphs. There will be a lot of follow this link and listen to the episode. And I will include some of the details you're adding in the comments, because as diligent as we try to be and as much as we try to join the dots, Unsurprisingly, there's some super experts out here, and it's hard to beat the hive mind of the internet. So this is what I love about GTA 6 o'clock. It's, you know, we're privileged enough to talk about it. It's the community that makes it, and it's your input that makes this show what it is. So thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you for all your likes and comments and subscribing to the channel. It does really help and gives us a sense of purpose. We can carry on with this knowing that you are enjoying it. Thank you very much. So we will wrap this up here, but don't worry, we will be back for another episode of GTA 6 o'clock.